This is the case of Philip Chism. He was a 14-year-old who raped and murdered his teacher when asked to stay behind after school. His teacher's name was Coleen Ritzer. Now, this is a particularly gruesome case, and viewer discretion is advised. Today's case takes place in Danvers, Massachusetts, in the USA, and it's known for its family-friendly parks and gardens. It's an idyllic setting and not one where you would expect to find a brutal slaying of a beautiful young teacher who taught maths class. Philip Chism was reported missing at 6:30 p.m. by his mother when he failed to return home on October the 22nd. He was a 14-year-old freshman who attended Danvers High School. Later that evening, a young black man was seen walking along the side of the highway by patrolmen. They turned their car around and drove back down the highway to stop him. Now, he was on the opposite side of the road, so the officer crossed the road to speak to him. When he was stopped, he gave no eye contact and was just staring blankly straight ahead. The officers asked where he was going, and he just replied with nowhere. He was carrying with him a rucksack. When officers inquired into what was in the rucksack, he blankly told them, still staring ahead, it was a survival kit. Patrolmen escorted Chism to the other side of the road at this point, where their patrol car was, and he was there searched. On his belongings they found a set of keys, later found to belong to Coleen. A pair of sheer blue underwear, also later found to belong to Coleen. Now, my personal opinion was that Chism had kept the underwear for a trophy. However, prosecutors alleged that he was going to dump them. He was also found to have a diving leg sheath, diving knife. He would be later found on CCTV after the murder, entering a wholesale store, and it was alleged there that he stole this knife. He was also carrying a women's white zip purse. When they opened up the zip purse to look inside, they found credit cards in the name of Coleen Ritzer, and they also found a box cutter knife. Inscribed on one side of it, it said, "Don't cut your arm off." Chism was taken into custody. Simultaneously, Coleen was also reported missing. News had circulated about missing Coleen, and concerned colleagues and the principal went to school to help out in the search. Her car was noted to still be in the school car park. Now, they began searching the school grounds and the woods which were located at the back of the school. That's where they found her purse under some leaves. They turned this over to police at the scene. They also found some gloves and bloody paper towels. Police activity at the school at this point was now rife. They cornered off the area of the woods and declared it a crime scene. Sniffer dogs was deployed at this point as well. Now, her parents had arrived at the school, and they were advised to go back to the police station. Investigators inside the school were trying to obtain the CCTV. Now, the school had just been remodelled and a new camera system had been installed. Initially, it wasn't working, and police spent some time trying to fix it. Eventually, it was up and running, and when it was, they were shocked of what they saw. Chism could be seen running up and down between the 2 flights of stairs that separated the women's bathroom and the math room several times. On CCTV, he was also seen changing clothes several times. At one point, he was wearing a ski mask. A student saw him running up and down the hall and asked him what he was doing, and Chism told him to go to football practice. That was also captured on CCTV. Another friend who Chism attended church with spoke to him in the midst of the murder and invited him to youth group, and Chism told him that he will go that week. He was also seen going into the bathroom and coming out pulling a very large recycle bin. A 16-year-old student and former teammate of Chism's described seeing him pulling the recycle bin out of the school grounds. He was seen walking past someone walking their dog, dragging the bin behind him. Captured on CCTV, blood was also seen on his left hand. Witnesses saw Chism acting suspicious in bushes outside of the school. The witness said that it looked like he was changing his clothes. When she got home, her daughter showed her a tweet later that evening, and she saw the picture of missing schoolboy Chism, whom she recognised. She then called the police after a discussion with her husband and told them what she had seen. There is full video available online of the CCTV captured of Chism in the school while carrying out the murder. Viewer discretion is advised, though. It is a disturbing but interesting watch. After watching the CCTV, police attention focused on the second floor bathroom. All they found was a bloody handprint on the doorframe. The bathroom appeared recently cleaned and smelt strongly of bleach and other cleaning products. Meanwhile, investigators searching the woods surrounding the school had found some more evidence. 2 blood-stained grey sneakers found separate from one another. One was more blood-stained than the other. There was no blood on the surrounding ground or the leaves, suggesting they were stained with blood at a different location. Within the woods there were 2 big boulders, and situated just beyond them was a grassy verge. Within that verge they found a pair of ladies' flat black shoes under a pile of leaves, belonging to the victim. This is where they also found the large recycle bin. Inside the bin was covered in blood. There were some textbooks also covered in blood on the bottom of the bin. Back at the station, Chism had offered somewhat of a very minimised confession. However, he did deny any sexual assault. He drew a map of where police could find Coleen's body and her mobile phone, which he had dumped behind the movie theatre. They went to the area Chism had directed them to, and sadly they then came across the body of Coleen. Coleen had been brutally raped, sodomised, beaten. She had 16 stab wounds to her neck. Her throat had also been cut, and if that wasn't enough, she had also been strangled. Her body, once dumped in the woods, had been posed with her legs spread apart, and she had been brutally raped again with a tree branch. Chism's school bag, along with his student ID, was found laying next to Coleen. This is overkill if I have ever seen it. So much so that the medical examiner was unable to tell what wounds actually had killed Coleen, although all the violence inflicted on Coleen had the potential in their own right to extinguish her life. Laying next to Coleen's body, they also found a pair of jeans which were heavily soaked in blood. They found a sock and some women's black pants. What could possess a 14-year-old boy to carry out this heinous murder? Here's what I found out about Chism. He has one sibling, a sister who is younger by 1 year. His father was in the US military, and his mother used to work for Tennessee Child and Protective Services. The family often moved around, which meant Chism moved schools quite frequently. He played soccer, and his father would often attend, sometimes in full military uniform. He also attended church. Now his parents separated, ending in divorce, with his mother citing domestic abuse, alcohol and infidelity on the father's part. The mother was subsequently awarded custody. His father was ordered to pay child support and had supervised visits. However, I'm unsure whether he paid the child support, and neither am I sure whether Chism had a relationship with his father after the divorce. There's no documented history of physical or sexual abuse or neglect, and although Chism has not confirmed this, he hasn't denied it either. Chism's best friend's mother testified that although Philip was respectful to her, he was very disrespectful to his mother. He appeared to have a volatile relationship with her. She was reported as saying, once in the police station being questioned, and this is a quote, "I do know he's capable of snapping," she admitted. "My son could have snapped. He's capable of that." Her family had a history of mental illness, she said, and her son had smacked another child in the face in the 7th grade. She went on to say, "As a mum, you just see some signs." In an interview, Philip told a state police detective that Coleen had said some trigger word that got him angry, but he would not say what that was. This was also witnessed in class by another student who had also been asked to stay behind. She said that Coleen had mentioned Tennessee, which was Chism's hometown. The witness said she witnessed Chism's demeanour instantly change and he became angry. She also said that Coleen was not saying anything bad about Tennessee at all, but she also noted Chism's change in presentation and she quickly changed the subject. At the trial of Philip Chism, a cleaner testified that he had attended work the morning of the murder and saw, in his words, lots of blood on the second floor bathroom and in 2 of the cubicles. He testified there was blood splatter up the walls and footsteps in blood. He was told to clean it when he reported it to the school deputy that morning, only leaving the smudged handprint on the doorframe for police to later find. Once Chism had committed this horrendous murder, he went to the movie theatre using Coleen's credit card to watch the movie Gravity. Chism's best friend testified and other classmates also testified. Interestingly, the only time Chism did not stare straight ahead throughout the trial. Now his classmates testified that a week before the murder, Chism became withdrawn and ignored his friends and did not make any eye contact with anybody. Classmates usually described him as outgoing and friendly, but in classes a week prior to the murder, he started to wear earbuds and not engage with the class. At trial, Chism went down the insanity route, and the trial was occasionally delayed by Chism, who was once observed beating his head on the floor and at another point refusing to return to the courtroom, telling his lawyer he was about to explode. A witness told the court that Chism's grandmother and aunt suffered with mental illness, and on day 3 of the trial, Chism asked not to be present anymore. The judge questioned him to ensure that this was what he wanted to do. He stared blankly ahead of the judge with no deviation in his facial expressions. When asked He did say he had taken prescription drugs. What these were not discussed. He was told that the court proceedings would be available for him to watch. When advised by the judge he would not be able to discuss or dispute anything with his lawyer that he disagreed with, he changed his mind. Now there was a court-appointed psychiatrist, and he testified in court that Chism was not showing any signs of psychosis or any other mental illness, and did not prescribe him any medication. With all the evidence shown in court, Chism appeared to be quite calculated and quite calm. Now, while Chism was being held at the Department of Youth Services facility in Dorchester, awaiting trial for Coleen's murder, prosecutors alleged he laid in wait for a female staff member, then beat and choked her and tried to stab her in a pencil. This was in June 2014. He was then sent to a mental health unit for 2 weeks. It was only then he was assessed and diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and a brief and transient psychotic episode, which is temporary disorganised thoughts. It was only then that he was prescribed risperidone, a psychiatric medication, an antipsychotic to be exact. Now the prosecution disputed the diagnosis and hinted Chism had an antisocial personality disorder instead, and risperidone is sometimes prescribed for personality disorders, although not on licence. At the end of the trial, Chism was found guilty of first-degree murder, aggravated rape and armed robbery. He is now serving a life sentence with no chance of parole until 2056. He is currently appealing his sentence, stating MRI scans showed similarities of those with a brain disorder and schizophrenia. However, the judge at his original trial would not allow the jury to hear this, as neither diagnosis had been made. Thank you for listening to today's case. A like and a subscribe would be much appreciated. Until the next time, toodaloo.